Shalom everyone, this is Judiah. Every year come Halloween, I get emails from people asking me if I have a video about this holiday. I've devoted time to going into the history of Christmas, and I've talked about the history behind Easter, but I have yet to speak on Halloween. This Halloween, I do want to make sure I bring light to this day. Too many kids do not know the truth behind Halloween. We see the carved out pumpkins, the haunted houses, and these haunting decorations outside of everyone's homes. And we think it's all fun and games, but it's not a game. Halloween has a very real history, a satanic history, stemming from the occult, stemming from satanic worship and witchcraft. And in this short video, I want to give you that history. But first, I want to credit a man by the name of Doc Marquis, a former occult member, brought up in the Illuminati from birth. This man's family stems from the occult, and he was taught every last bit of satanic worship. As a baby, he was dedicated to Lucifer, like we're dedicated to the Most High. He was dedicated to Satan. He was taught in the way of Wicca. He was taught to perform spells in witchcraft. He went to a satanic seminary. He graduated to become a master witch. Now, about 35 years ago, he walked away from that life to follow after the Most High. And his way of serving the Most High today is teaching the world the truth behind the holidays that we think are holy. He teaches that they are not. They stem from the occult. Not just Halloween, but Christmas and Easter too. All stem from witchcraft. So I don't know this man personally, nor do I necessarily endorse everything he may stand for, but I heard this man's message about his life in witchcraft, and I had to give him credit here because today he travels the world trying to tell people about these holidays that we, living in America, have been mentally programmed to celebrate. When a former witch tells you that what you do to celebrate your God, their people did years before in honor of Lucifer, we should listen. So some of this information is from research, and some of it is from this man's personal testimony. So, on Halloween, we dress up in costumes, dress our babies up in costumes, we put masks on, paint our faces, we go out in the dark, we go from door to door knocking and yelling, trick or treat, having no idea where this stuff comes from, but we hope to come back with a big bag of candy. But this day has nothing to do with candy. Candy wasn't the original treat, and the trick wasn't a trick at all. It was death, plain and simple. And these commercials that come on every 10 minutes when your child is watching their favorite show, these businesses selling costumes and Halloween-related products, their purpose to get you all pumped up about Halloween, excited to sell you the latest costume for your children. And of course, your children see these commercials, and they can't wait to go out trick-or-treating. But all these businesses care about is making money. Money is their God. And it doesn't matter to them that they are promoting satanic worship by selling you their costumes, as long as they get paid. So it's up to us to learn and know what we're doing when we buy into this stuff. First of all, there is a reason why Halloween falls on October 31st. It was strategically placed on that particular day. There are 8 nights of human sacrifice in the occultic calendar, and Halloween was one of them. Christmas was another night of human sacrifice, originally on December 21st through the 22nd. Yes, Christmas at that time, called Yule, was a night when people were killed in the occult. It was not Jesus' birthday originally. Jesus wasn't even born yet. Groundhog's Day was another night of human sacrifice on February 1st through the 2nd. May Day, May 1st, is another. And Halloween, which is the highest night of human sacrifice. These are the 4 main nights of human sacrifice. The other 4 nights are March 21st, June 21st, July 31st, and September 21st. So Halloween falls on an occultic night of human sacrifice, meaning at the end of the night, some people were expected to die. But it was originally a 3-day fire festival, so it began on the 29th and ended on the 31st of October. It was also considered the end of the year, and November 1st was the start of the new year. So Halloween is traditionally considered a sacred crossroad period in the occult. Now, let a witch tell you what Halloween means, and they'll come up with something sweet and innocent like, it's the time when the veil between our world and the spirit world is lifted and we can connect with the dead. But this is the real story behind Halloween. Now, before it was called Halloween, in the occult, it was known as Samhain. Samhain was a festival of the ancient Celtic people held at the end of October. Now, the most educated, prestigious people among them were the Druids. They were the leaders in Great Britain, and their approval was required for everything. Nothing could occur without them saying so. The Druids practiced in the occult, and everyone was under their influence. They summoned spirits, they did spells, they worshipped Satan. Many of you have seen these monuments here before in archaeology, but never really knew what they were for. And the history classes that showed us these monuments never bothered to teach us the truth behind them either. They're called stone henges, right? We've heard that name before. That's all we've been taught. But this is where the Druids would gather during their 3-night festival of Samhain, today known as Halloween. These stones were an occultic temple for the Druids, a place of human sacrifice. Over 4,000 human skeletal bones were found at just one of these locations alone, and these stone henges are all over the British Isle. During the 3-day festival, the Druids amused themselves by visiting the front doors of mansions and castles of people yelling trick-or-treat. Now today when we think of the term trick-or-treat, we imagine the voices of little children yelling it with excitement. But back then no one was excited to hear the term trick-or-treat. People feared hearing that phrase from their front porch. You were expected to open the door, and the man of the house was expected to cooperate by handing over a member of their household, whether a son, a daughter, a wife, a butler, or a maid. And this person would be a human sacrifice offering for that night. If you did that, the priest would give them a hollowed pumpkin as a treat filled with human fat. They put it on their front porch and they'd light it up for protection against demonic forces that would be unleashed that night. And demonic forces are real. When you partake in satanic worship, you become a part of it, and it becomes a part of you. If they didn't cooperate, if they didn't hand over a member of their household as a treat, the Druid priest would take the blood of a dead body they carried around that night and paint a 6-pointed star that we today call a hexagram on their front door to summon demons to their home. Their home was cursed, and someone would die that night. And this wasn't a game. Someone would die that night due to the summons. This is why people feared them, because when they called on demonic forces came through. Otherwise, they would have been like, well, paint my door. Nothing's going to happen anyway. But they feared it because they knew it was real. And they'd rather hand over someone in their household that they had chosen than to have someone mysteriously die in their household whom they had not chosen. It was real. And when they chose not to hand over anyone, their home was cursed and someone within that home died. This was the trick. So getting to choose who in your household would die was the treat. Choosing not to hand over anyone and your household becoming cursed such that an unknown member of your household would die that night was the trick. Do you see how death is in the trick and the treat? The difference is whether or not you're choosing who would die. Now, those people who were willingly handed over for human sacrifice, they were gathered up and taken back to the stone henges as prisoners. But they weren't killed right away. The Druid priests continued to overexert their power for fun. In the center of the Stonehenge was a big cauldron full of boiling water, customary in witchcraft, and the cauldron had apples in the boiling water. The prisoners were given an option. They were told if they could get the apple out with only their teeth, they would live. And if they didn't want to try because the water was so hot, they were beheaded. Of course, those who didn't try were killed, and those who did try, some of them were successful, but they were permanently disfigured from the boiling hot water on their faces and neck, even burning their insides, their throat, and their lungs. But they'd rather be disfigured than dead, so they tried it. And this is the history behind the popular activity, bobbing for apples. Even that has origins in the occult, and that activity is part of every modern festival and fair, and it stems from witchcraft. So the costumes and the masks, where does that all come from? Remember, Halloween, being on October 31st, is considered the end of the occultic year and the beginning of the new year, a crossroad period in the occult. It was believed that souls of those crossed over could visit their loved ones for the night. So the Druids, naturally being regulators, in order to keep these spirits in line, the Druids designed robes and masks and decorated them with symbols, purposed to control the spirits crossing over. This is the origin of costumes on Halloween, based on the robes and the masks of the satanic Druids, trying to manipulate these spirits and keep them in line. People modeled themselves after the Druids. That's the purpose of the costume on Samhain or Halloween. So when you put a costume on your baby, whether it be a witch, a clown, a superhero, or an angel, doesn't matter what it is, you are modeling them after the occultic Druids. Your kids become a part of that satanic ritual. So this day of death and human sacrifice, curses and torture, today we call this a holiday. Dress our kids up in honor of this day, and thousands of people have been murdered in celebration of this satanic day. The truth is, this occultic holiday has been Christianized, just as Christmas has been and Easter has been, and the holiday has become merely a fun thing to do on the night of October 31st. Instead of going out into the streets, they go to church in costumes with their kids. Newsflash: satanic worship in the temple is still satanic worship. Churches have Halloween concerts but call them harvest festivals, a fun and supposedly holy alternative to trick-or-treating, but the term harvest festival also stems from the occult. See, those who are not able to attend the demonic festivals hosted by the Druids decided to hold their own mini festivals in their neighborhood, and they called them harvest festivals, satanic ritualistic parties. Taking an occultic name and applying it to a church gathering doesn't change the origin of that name or that practice. It's our responsibility to know what we're doing. Christmas and Santa Claus, Easter and the Easter Bunny, Valentine's Day and its Cupid, which was a sun god in the occult, Groundhog's Day, May Day, which was a fertility ritual, St. Patrick's Day with the cute little leprechaun. That cute little leprechaun, by the way, was actually a sun god that the Bible calls by name. His name in the Bible is Molech. People sacrifice their babies to this god for financial blessings, and this is why that leprechaun has a pot of gold. And of course, Halloween. Every single one of these holidays stem from satanic worship, from witchcraft, from Wicca, and they're all on our calendar as days we should honor and celebrate. The founders of this country didn't tell us the true meaning behind these days, but every time we observe them, we are participating in the occultic practice by default. Christian, Israelite, Jew, whatever you're calling yourself, you are partaking in satanic worship every time you observe these days, if you observe them. So as descendants of ancestors who were never taught, we naturally don't know. But after watching this video, you will. I said it before and I'll say it again. This stuff goes back thousands of years. It should not surprise us that in our small lifetime, we haven't learned it. We can only learn so much in a lifetime. But once we do learn it, it's up to us to teach it, spread the truth, especially to our little ones, so they can go to school and tell all those other kids who don't know the truth. Kids are impressionable, but that's a good thing. Just as quickly as they picked up on the lie, they can pick up on the truth. And kids today are not afraid to speak it. So it's time for us as adults to pick up the truth and walk with it. Let go of the lies we've been handed down. We owe this to the next generation so it doesn't take them 20 to 30 years to wake up. We, ambassadors of the Most High, it's our responsibility to separate truth from lie and to be held accountable for what we do, especially if we intend to represent Him. You cannot represent the Most High if you are honoring any of these occultic so-called holidays. So that's all I have for you today. Prayerfully, I've shed some light on Halloween for you and for your children. Thank you for watching. Shalom.